listen to me, I am not operating on you. I'm telling you this right now. Like, you are not ready for this. If you're looking to get 4,500 grafts in one day over your whole scalp, I'm not your guy.
Hair loss is brutal at any age. For a young guy, 17, 18 years old.
You know, you're coming to me and telling me it's the most terrible drug in the world. I look at them and I say, I've been taking it for 25 years. What's the matter with you?
You used to go down to the clinic with your dad when you were a child. He even gave you his own hair off his head.
This is a lifelong relationship. I don't want to tell you after one surgery, I'm sorry, there's nothing more I can do for you. Here I am, the son of the king of hair in Miami, and I'm being told that I can't have a surgical solution.
Okay, so I'm here today with Aaron Nussbaum. This is another episode of the Hair Loss Lab podcast. I'm in Miami. A pleasure to finally meet you after all these years, man. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for giving me your precious time. I've just visited the clinic. We've spent an hour over there. You've shown me around everything. And what I wanted to do is have you on the show today to dive into your expertise, your experience, because your journey into hair restoration was a very unique one that I can't wait for people to hear. And I can't wait to get clarification on it as well. So I just want to say, Aaron, thanks so much. I can't wait to dive into a number of questions with you.
Looking forward to it and honored to be here, Spencer. Thank you.
To lead into learning a bit more about Aaron Nussbaum and the Miami Hair Institute is kind of where it all started. Sure. And it's quite a unique tale in the fact that you were very fortunate in that one of the best hair transplant surgeons in the world was your father. And however many years ago it was, I heard this incredible story about you, and you need to tell me if this is true, of how you used to go down to the clinic with your dad when you were a child, and you used to quite literally watch him, learn from him. He even gave you his own hair off his head under a microscope to kind of keep you busy.
Yes, sir.
But through that process, you discovered what you wanted to be and your calling to follow, quite literally, as the saying goes, in your father's footsteps. And they were big shoes to fill, because for anybody that doesn't know of your father, an unbelievable, I never had the chance to meet him. He's still about, but not working. But right. Everybody I've ever spoken to in the industry speaks so highly of him. Mm-hmm. So you were very blessed to have such an incredible mentor to guide you ethically, kind of honestly, and make you the surgeon that you are today, which is, again, one of the best hair transplant surgeons in the world, without a doubt. And I've been around your clinic. It's a testimony to your father's legacy. And, if you can just give us kind of the short version of this incredibly unique tale of how one of the best hair transplant surgeons in the world was led by his father into the profession.
No, thank you, of course. So I am extremely fortunate to have had such a mentor in my father who, in my eyes, was one of the pioneers in this field.
No doubt.
He, as a board-certified dermatologist, he started doing hair transplants way back with a doctor by the name of Leonard Lewis, who was one of the founders of dermatologic surgery and was practicing here in South Florida. Back, he saw the whole evolution of the procedure being done from the larger plugs to the mini plugs to the mini grafts, then the strip surgeries, then FUE. And I basically, throughout my whole life, was brought up through this industry, if you will. So obviously my father being a surgeon, working early mornings and late nights, we never got a chance to really spend a lot of time with him during the week. So on the weekends, when he had to go to his clinic on Saturday morning to see his Friday afternoon patients, he would bring me along at 5 years old. And to entertain me while I was there, he literally would pluck a couple hairs out of his scalp at 5 years old, stick me under one of the cutting microscopes or the Mantis if they had it back then, and let me sit there and play and entertain myself. So that was special to me. And it sort of started me into this field. As time went on, I always tell the story, I could never go anywhere around the city in Miami without running into a patient or a person that he had been with and basically saw firsthand the profound effect that he had on their quality of life. They would run up to him and say, "Oh my God, Dr. Nussbaum, look, this is what your father did to me." And I was this impressionable young boy looking at my father, literally saying, "This is who I have to emulate."
This is God.
So
what a
thank
hero.
God But over
Yeah.
time, I've been able to follow in his footsteps, as you said, and really live forward his legacy.
But that's incredible because, it's a bit of a generalization, but as the saying goes, we all aspire to be, for the most part, I was personally, we all look up to our fathers and our fathers are our heroes. But, and that's a subconscious thing because, they're leading the way for us. But your father actually was leading the way for you. And so that's a unique tale. Right. And one I think that's probably bode very well for you because you were kind of mentored by the best. He knew the ins and outs. He'd watched the industry evolve or devolve and all the different components, all the noise that comes with the industry. At a time that the industry was really expanding, it was getting marketed, it was becoming a commodity, and he had to navigate all that as well, which I'm sure he kind of kept you at arm's length from, but at the same time had to make you aware of how this industry works.
Cautiously,
Yeah, but with your best interest at heart.
Of course.
So that's probably given you an advantage on most people in this industry because they have to learn it the hard way.
No, it's true.
Your father had kind of done the hard yards and kind of gave you, for the most part, a bit of an advantage, which you've utilized to benefit the patient because you're all about the patient. I've been around your clinic and it is one smooth, well-oiled machine. You've taken me, firstly, it's a big facility. You've got 3 ORs, you've got, consultant suites, you've got all sorts going on there. But what was lovely to see was the cohesion, the staff, everyone was very welcoming. It was very, it flowed. The whole place flowed. So that's a testimony to you. But just important that people know about the clinic and that's great, but more importantly about the surgery. So you've been performing surgery. How many years?
About 10 years now.
About 10 years. So tell us briefly what led us into, before you went into hair restoration surgery, because obviously you went and trained to be a doctor. Just tell us a little bit about the process and the timeline to becoming what you knew you wanted to be.
Correct. So I'm a board certified dermatologist. I'm born and raised in Miami, Florida. I did all of my studies, both undergraduate through an accelerated medical school program. So I went directly from high school to college medical school. I always knew I wanted to be a physician. My father being a surgeon, my mother's also a physician as well. So it's kind of in the blood, as you say. So I did all my training at University of Miami. I am a board certified dermatologist. So I did my dermatology and cutaneous surgery residency at UM, which is one of the most highly ranked academic, I would say, programs for that and esteemed in the country. There I was fortunate enough to work alongside world-renowned faculty in the hair loss field, such as Antonella Tosti, Dr. Maria Miteva. So I got in addition to all of the training that I had from my father in terms of surgery, I had very, very strong foundation in terms of diagnosis, treatment, the use of trichoscopy from some of the world experts in sort of the medical hair loss side of things. So when I joined the practice, after I finished my residency, we developed, in addition to the surgical side of hair restoration, we started also a big push for non-surgical therapies and a whole other side of the clinic. And sort of the combination of surgical teachings from my father, in addition to all the medical knowledge that I gained from the dermatology residences, it kind of came synergistic.
Brilliant.
So we could sort of formulate a all-in-one center for anybody and everybody who's having any issues with their hair in the South Florida area.
But that's brilliant because obviously clinics that stand the test of time are the ones that approach it from every angle. They're not just about one thing. They're not just about kind of that kind of simple process of in, out, the patient care aspect. And you've always been, in the time that we've known each other, when we first reached out and we had conversations, it was evident to me that you really understood the kind of patient's perspective and you understood the importance of patient advocacy and the roles that I perform and the ability to try and give patients the facts around not just surgery, but treatments and essentially that hair loss is progressive. And you were fully supportive. And that's so important that's implemented in your clinic, because that is what we're about. We're about educating patients. It isn't about getting people in the door to do surgery.
No.
Far from it. It's like we say, surgery is a last resort. And I can see that from the clinic. It's very much, well, surgery's there.
Right.
If you need it after we've looked and explored all the other potential options to enable you to get the best possible outcome, short, mid, and long term.
Right.
And I think that must have stemmed from obviously your watching your dad and how, because back then, obviously, hair loss preventative treatments weren't what they are now. But you told me a funny story on the way over here as well about preventative treatments. And I said to you, joking, well, it's clear you've not got an issue with your hair loss, buddy. And you were like, well, that's because I've been on Dutasteride since I was 18. So tell us about that.
No, so I started losing hair at 17 years old. Everybody in my family, we have a strong genetic predisposition to androgenetic alopecia. We inherited lots of good things from our family relatives, but we got this one as well, as I always say. My father's had many hair transplants, and everybody in my family has either had procedures done or is a type 6, type 7. So at 17, I started losing hair in my crown at sort of a young, early age. I was in the end of high school. It started disturbing me. It started bothering me. People started making comments. So I, as a patient, felt the emotional distress of being a young man who has his whole life ahead of him and struggling with a sort of cosmetic issue of hair loss, which affected confidence, self-esteem, all that stuff. Of course, I said, Dad, what are we going to do about my hair? And he looked at my donor area with a dermatoscope and told me, Aaron, I'm sorry, but I don't think you really have the best donor to do this. So here I am, the son of the king of hair in Miami, and I'm being told that I can't have a surgical solution, which was kind of like, oh my God, well, what's going to happen? So at a very young age, I started taking finasteride at age 17, actually. I know it's FDA approved at 18. He had treated some other younger patients.
And how many years ago was that?
I mean, has to be 20, probably 25 years ago, 24 years ago.
Right. Finasteride becoming a thing.
So he put me on finasteride at 17. I actually still sort of progressed. My hair loss continued while I was being on finasteride. So at a very quickly, 6-7 months into it, we made a change to Dutasteride, which at that point I was patient 0 of who my father started on it. And, obviously over time it's worked and it's done its job. I think without hair loss prevention, I would probably be a type 6 or type 7, or have had to have multiple procedures if I'm even a candidate for that, over time. So I'm very grateful. And I've seen not only, I tell patients all the time, I say, your doctor takes the poison too. So when I'm sitting here trying to tell you of what to take, that, you're coming to me and telling me it's the most terrible drug in the world. I look at them and I say, I've been taking it for 25 years. What's the matter with you?
The poison. It's not the best way to help promote the medication. But nonetheless, interesting that you...
Sarcastic poison.
Hopefully the audience will get that. But what's interesting is that you actually did experience hair loss and you experienced the emotions that come with that and the lack of self-esteem at a very young age. Because hair loss is brutal at any age. As I'm sure you have patients that come in who are from whatever age, let's say 18 all the way through to 60, 70 years old. And the thing is, it's like, it still affects people in such a profound way because it's all relative.
Right.
But for a young guy, 17, 18 years old,
it's tough.
There's a strong argument.
And the world's brutal.
Yeah, there's a strong argument for it's even worse for them. And it's like, just to digress a little bit, it's like with female hair loss, it's like, I really understand it. It's an arm of the hair loss lab that we're introducing. But for women to lose their hair is even more.
Oh, yeah, it's worse. Men, you can get away with it. You can shave your head.
Well,
men can look okay. I mean, sometimes, but
there's an option. There's
an option.
Yeah,
right.
And despite the fact it's a very difficult one for people to relate to, you can just shave it off. People don't want to. Unfortunately, because of conversations like these and ones we've had and educational information, people don't have to. Hair loss is now something that is treatable. It's preventable.
Correct.
If you go about it the right way. And sadly, there's so much misinformation out there because of the internet, because of the volume of stuff that's out there that we're dealing with this social media epidemic, that people are confused, and rightly so, because I mentioned on another podcast, it's like I started out when I was 21 with the Yellow Pages. I went to Bosley based on an advert that I saw at the Super Bowl. Ironically, last night I landed, I put the TV on.
Bosley.
The first thing that was on the TV was a Bosley advert. I mean, I thought I was in a time loop. It was such a trip. I'm like, are you effing kidding me?
Right.
These guys are still banging the door. These are the guys that sent me on my repair journey. That like 25 years on, I'm here educating people, and I put the telly on, the advert's still there.
Still around.
It's bonkers. But just to pull that back in of to deal with hair loss at a young age, I go as far as to say that was probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Because what it did for you is it gave you that humility to really understand.
Put myself
I
in a
don't want to
patient's
feel
shoes.
like this. So when a patient does come through the door, whatever age, you can identify and associate with them, can't you? You can understand what they're going through.
Right.
No, they look at you and you've got this incredibly insane hairline.
They all say, doctor, I want your hairline. I said, well, you don't see what the back of my head looks like, but it's a little different story. You know?
But it's important. It's important that people that are watching this, that know, I have found why the podcast is becoming as successful as it is, because we're telling the experts' stories. And what I want to do is combine a number of experts in the field and create an umbrella where it's not just people telling their experiences of a hair transplant and I took this medication and I did this and I had this side effect. What the purpose of this is to provide people a real insight into real experts who've lived it, breathed it, and had the multiple experiences with hair loss sufferers, so people can draw upon that wealth of knowledge from experts. And it's important that they know your story because it's legitimate, it's authentic, and that's rare in this space, to have people that genuinely care. And a story such as yours that's come from such authenticity, it's in the blood, it's in your DNA to want to help people with hair loss because of your father's kind of legacy. And it's fantastic that you have now the ability to take the reins from him and, dare I say, take it one step further and help even more people and be the next king of Miami, or however your father's referred to here, probably still. But so Aaron, the facility that you've got here, Miami Hair Institute, beautiful building, prominently positioned, and you run a very busy practice. But what I'd love people to understand and know a little bit more about, so what types of surgery go on there? What are you providing your patients that are coming through the door? The range of options for the range of hair loss sufferers that are coming through the door.
So look, first of all, I think that hair loss in general creates this it's a progressive condition. It creates this very unique, long-standing like doctor-patient relationship. So we have to educate people about all of their options the minute that they come in the office. So patients want to understand what's going on, why it's going on, proper diagnosis. Every patient, we use dermoscopy in every patient that comes in the office to properly diagnose and treat them.
So just explain a little bit about that for people that don't know what that is.
So dermoscopy is basically with several different devices. It can be as simple as using any sort of video microscope with anywhere from 10 to 40x magnification, usually polarized light, to look at the scalp, and based on certain patterns, sort of conditions, if you will, signs, you can make hair loss diagnosis non-invasively without having to biopsy every patient. So you can determine if a patient has an inflammatory scalp condition. You can determine if a patient's having more of a telogen effluvium versus androgenetic alopecia, etc. So
it's a comprehensive way of looking under the hood.
Correct. So not everybody who comes in, we just say, oh, you're losing hair, that's this. And not to segue, but if you only knew, and I know this may have been talked about a little bit, the amount of lichen planopilaris that we've diagnosed in patients who have been improperly either operated on or recommended surgery by other clinics, it's out of control. So I tell everybody, if you're a hair transplant doctor, you better know how to use a dermatoscope, not only to look at the donor area, but you better know how to look at the top of the scalp too, and really get good training in hair and scalp dermoscopy and scalp dermatology, because we have to be all inclusive if we're offering this service.
Yeah, so you're providing people from the word go a very comprehensive outlook and overview of what their condition is.
Correct.
So how do we best treat that?
So first it's what do you have? What is going on? Put this in layman's terms and explain to me why my hair follicles are thinning out or falling out. Then it's number two, what are you a better candidate for? Should you, not consider surgery right now? Have you already been taking effective medications? So we have all the different options for our patients under one roof. There's one side of the practice, which is our sort of medical hair loss side. My colleague that I actually met in dermatology residency, Dr. Timothy Wu.
Yeah, I want to know a bit more about him.
Awesome. So he's fantastic. He's one of my best friends. So it's incredible that not only did I get to work with my father for a very long time and sort of moving him, now I have one of my best friends who sits right next to me and get to work. So my father and I hand selected him to come join our practice. Obviously, we have extremely high standards, and for what anybody who'd be willing to work under our name, we need to make sure that they follow our how can I say, values, guidelines, education, doing things the right way, which he absolutely does. So he spearheads sort of the medical side of the practice, and he also has been trained by myself and my father, and he's performing a few hair transplant surgeries a week, mostly on his hair loss patients and things like that. So he's fantastic.
Basically, he's getting learning the ropes. He's getting trained by the best, and it won't be long before
his results are on par with some of the most natural hairlines you can tell, because that's the only thing that we do.
Well, he's been trained right.
Correct.
Yeah, and that's the deal breaker for a lot of these surgeons. If he's trained right, then he's gonna.
It starts at the beginning.
Exactly.
So he was, and also the other thing is he was also trained by us, not just in FUE. He was trained in FUT strip surgery. So that's kind of a lost art, and I still perform about 30% of my cases are strip surgeries.
Right.
So
is that on men or women or both?
So I would say 95% of my ladies are strips, just because
the nature of
the nature of it. With trichophytic closures, the linear scars are minimal. They wear long hair. It's an efficient way to move around a lot of grafts. Women generally don't like to shave their donor area. With the advent of no shave FUE, which we are doing a lot more cases of that, it's increasing popularity. It is another option for women, but generally I like the strip. I think it's a more efficient way to do it in a lady, unless of course the scalp doesn't have enough elasticity. We used to have to tell them, sorry, you're gonna have to shave the back of your head now, but now with no shave FUE, we don't have to do that. So we're doing strip. We're doing mostly manual FUE. We, for many, many years, did work with the ARTIST robot. We actually did more procedures with it than anybody in the world, probably since 2011 or 2012.
Wow.
I found, when I joined the practice, I started to experiment a little bit more with different manual FUE devices. And what I have found is, as the FUE manual devices have evolved, I do believe that over the last couple of years, because of the different functions of the punches, the fact that you can combine oscillation, rotation, vibration into one movement, the smaller punch diameters, I have sort of transitioned from using the ARTIST robot into purely manual FUE. So I have transitioned a little bit from this ARTIST robot. I'm really not using it anymore to purely manual FUE. With micromotors, the Zeus, the Trevellini, the Wow, I have all of them. I have them all. I actually start the cases by, using each of the devices I feel like different scalps, different types of follicles.
You need to feel your way, don't you?
You can't have, if all you have is a hammer, everything's a nail. So, you need to have different tools to be able to do the job. And we incorporate all those techniques. The other thing that I think is special about our practice is, even though that we do have some consultants there, myself and Dr. Wu do all the consultations ourselves. So,
and you don't charge for consultations.
No, we do not. I know that's sort of, some people do, some people don't. Obviously, our time is very valuable, but we want to be there to give our information and our opinions and evaluate as many people as possible. Oftentimes, I tell patients, look, we're busy. We're not going to pressure you to do this with us. You have 30 to 45 minutes with me, basically at no charge, to sit and ask me questions so that I can hopefully help educate you on what you should be thinking about, what you shouldn't be thinking about, what you should be doing, what you got to be care of. So at the very least, even if you don't do surgery with me or at all, hopefully you leave here with a good, solid basis or a foundation of knowledge about this field. And that's really my goal.
Yeah, and that's really important point. And this is why you've been so pro supporting the likes of my resources, because you know that patient education is only going to benefit everybody, more importantly, the patient. But you've always, I've spoken to patients of yours who've like, yeah, Dr. Nussbaum, send me your information. He's shown me this article, he's shown me this resource, because then they can get educated. So when they come and then they finally sit down in front of you, your time is so much more productive.
Absolutely.
Rather than talking about, oh, so you don't even know about minoxidil, or you don't even know about finasteride. Because you know that sending people into and giving them information that enables them to make a more informed decision for themselves is a win-win, because it benefits them and it benefits the surgeon and it benefits their surgery if they're eligible for a surgery, but the resources help them at least understand the process way more and makes that consultation time so much more valuable.
I always tell the patients to come in here, I say, I feel bad for patients seeking hair transplants right now because it's such a difficult space to navigate. I say, I feel bad the situation that you're in trying to manage all this information. So that's why I think what you have done in particular, and other patient advocacy groups, of course, you're giving patients a starting point to say, these are the doctors that are doing things the right way. Yeah. These are the doctors that are all about educating first, surgery being a last resort, having the patient's best interest in mind instead of just trying to make a buck, forgetting even about, before you even get into, whose results do you like better than another one, this is where you should kind of start. Yeah. Then I always tell patients, look, start with, Spencer Stevenson, Specs, get a foundation, start looking at these people, then dive in a little deeper. Yeah. Obviously see location, where you can get to, what's feasible for you, given the recovery and things like that. And then open up and start. What I tell patients is, stare at before and after pictures, as many as you can. Try to look at which ones are exposing the hairline, which are not trying to hide everything, and, pick people you results. And then I encourage patients all the time. I say, you need to have multiple consultations. I know you've 100%. Seen pictures and you think that I'm the guy and I'm the only one that can do this, but it's going to make you more educated and it's going to help you make a better decision for you to go get multiple opinions. And I oftentimes, even some of my local competitors, I will tell patients, look, these are the main 4 guys in Miami or South Florida. Go see them, get some other opinions, and, see what it is.
They're going to guide you well, and they're going to get, it might be a different opinion to yours.
Right.
But this is the whole point. It's like giving patients the ability to make a more informed decision for themselves.
That's what we're here.
And I think that's a testimony to, the number of surgeons that are here in Miami. I'm meeting with a few of them, and they all sing from that hymn sheet. They all respect each other in this field. And that's how it should be, because there's more than enough patients to go around. But what is more important than anything is those patients get what is right for them.
Right.
Because you hit on a very, very good point there. And this is something that I see and something that I work tirelessly to do, is it is a minefield for a new, vulnerable, desperate hair loss sufferer. And this is something that we're seeing because these guys or girls are coming to the space. They're getting into the algorithm. They think that they want to get something done about their hair loss, and before they know it, they're potentially looking at a hair transplant in Turkey, because that is the general rule of thumb. It's the narrative that everybody's hearing. Or why don't you go to Turkey? But then they're not getting the information that they need, because what they don't understand is that not every hair transplant doctor, clinic, surgeon, technique is the same.
Right.
So it's not like you're buying a box of Kellogg's from that store and a box of Kellogg's from that store. Far from it. And this is the problem that I find is why this is so important to get this information, this educational platform out there, is to make people understand that it isn't a cookie cutter type of procedure, and you pay for what you get with hair restoration. And more often than not, it's like the most expensive, not necessarily the most expensive, but if a surgeon who is consistently providing good results, is honest, is transparent, but is charging 3 times as much as a clinic in Turkey who's just got kind of like, it just looks like a popular Instagram feed and nothing else to back it up. That patient, sadly, just through the nature of human nature, is like led by the affordability of it.
Right.
And this is my objective, is these conversations that we're having is for people to hear that soundbite there and be like, oh, right, I didn't realize that you just couldn't go to Turkey for a hair transplant. I didn't realize there was more to it than that.
Right.
And this is something that you must have to navigate in consultations. Well, when they say, well, that's all well and good, but I can get this for 2,000 euros in Turkey. I mean, what is your retort to that?
Well, first of all, my joke is
the polite retort.
The polite retort is turkeys for Thanksgiving. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, so look, what I tell patients is there's excellent doctors all over the world. There are certainly some of our colleagues that you know very well that do great work. So it's difficult to associate a country with a positive or a negative outcome overall.
There's some great surgeons in Turkey.
Absolutely.
There really are. I work with a few of them.
Right. Yeah. So if you can navigate your way through all the BS and get to those, then you're going to be in good hands. But what I tell patients is, look, everybody's different. There are some people that have made their names and made their sort of fame by doing these, whether it's Turkey or that, large numbers of cases, these mega sessions.
Well, everyone's trying to get their USP, Aaron, aren't they? Everyone's trying to get the reason to differentiate themselves.
Right. That's not my thing.
No,
so
I know
that's what I tell people all the time. If you're looking to get 4,500 grafts in one day over your whole scalp and get covered up from front to back and get this mass, 15-hour procedure, I'm not your guy.
Yeah.
Wish you the best of luck and go for it. There's other people that can do that. I am into safety, making this a very enjoyable, easy, spa-like type of day where you basically, at the end of the day, I want you to look me in the eye and say, Dr. Nussbaum, this is one of the best medical experiences I've ever had in my entire life.
Yeah.
I don't know why I pushed this off for so long. And if I ever have to do this again, I would do it in a heartbeat because it was so much easier than I thought. So,
that people sadly have to find that out the hard way.
Right.
But what I try to make people understand, and this conversation has led us into this, which is really important, is repair surgery is way more expensive and way more time consuming and way more emotionally draining.
And difficult.
From a patient that's had 13 hair transplants and been there, done it, worn the t-shirt, I know what patients have to endure. And my unique story is actually been a breeze compared to some of the repair cases that we see today by today's standards. I mean, I was unfortunate in the sense that I had a big scar on the back of my head that stretched and hair that was growing all over. Then I had further progressive hair loss, and my journey was all small surgeries, tweaking, critiquing, and I got greedy. Why not? I can do it. I'll fill my scar.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I feel, as you've just highlighted, that without us banging the drum and having what does appear to be, anybody that watches all these back from start to finish, these podcasts, a repetitive kind of narrative. They are and they aren't, because sadly, we have to keep repeating ourselves to get heard.
Right.
And hopefully with just this ability to have this form of communication. Yeah, we're sat in a great podcast. We're in Miami. We're chewing the fat. We're talking. It's great fun. We get on. This is not a hardship for us. This is fun. But if even one person finds this and it changes the course of their research process, they're not necessarily having to come to you. But if they go to a surgeon who is going to guide them accurately and ethically,
in the right way,
then we've done our job. This
100%.
whole process, this whole day of meeting up has, as far as I'm concerned, been an incredible success.
Yeah.
Never mind just personally hanging out with you and having a good time.
Right.
It's like that's why having guests like you on is really important, because I know you get it. You get it. You are a team player. You want people to share information and likewise vice versa, because sadly there's in this industry, information isn't so readily shared when it so easily could be, because if it was, for the sake of whatever reason, so many more people would be helped.
For sure.
And that's what we know, because we've witnessed it, we've experienced it. The amount of people you've had come through your door who've read, I read this article. They can't even remember what it is. I read this article and it had a list of surgeons, or some people like, I read 80 Gentlemen's article and they found you.
Do you know you're one of the best in the world?
Yeah. Oh, thanks. I didn't know that. No, but it's the irony of all that whole, and I interviewed recently Chris Beastle, the owner of 80 Gentlemen, and that the power of that article has directly and indirectly helped so many people, because it's such an organic and authentic piece of education. It does house a list of doctors, but more importantly, the read, people that legitimately want to read it and find out more are enlightened by what this industry actually is about. And I know you've had a number of patients that have come to you as a result of reading that and have hopefully come to you way more educated than they were previously.
Yes. I prefer, as you mentioned, I prefer patients that come in that have done a lot of research.
Yeah.
It's not about time. It makes for a more efficient consultation. Yeah. You're not introducing things to people for the first time. They've already had a good idea of what's going on. They know the right questions to ask you. They know what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So these articles, especially the ones that you put out there, the basis for the whole mission of what we're trying to do here.
Exactly. And on that point about what patients are looking for and setting expectations and realistic expectations, you mentioned to me, when we were over at the clinic, about how you've, of late, you've got a number of young patients who are obviously finding you via social media or whatever, who have done no research, who're experiencing a bit of hair loss, and they're coming to you and they're saying, I don't quite know what I want, but can you do this, or could you do this? And you're just like, whoa, buddy, first things first.
Take a step back.
Take a step back. Come and see me in 6 months' time and we'll have maybe a chat about it. But it's really important that you understand what you're getting into here and the nature of hair loss and the nature of surgery, because young, impressionable men, women, mainly men, especially if they're jumping into hair restoration, women tend to be a little bit more astute and a little bit calmer and actually go about it a little bit more diligently. Men are more emotionally charged and want that quick fix and they want to sort it out. And sadly, it's like those conversations, despite the fact you have no heart, there's no remorse in having those chats. You know you need to have those chats with the guy. But it is a worry, isn't it? That we are doing a role and performing a role where your time could be much better spent educating patients that are eligible hair transplant surgeons rather than educating patients that are just, it's like upside down, don't know which way. So it's great that you can direct them in a safe direction to resources. Right. But then when they come back and have a chat with you,
when they're ready,
they're more informed.
And what I'm finding a lot of is, especially in the young male patient, they don't like being told that you can't do something. No. They get really pissed. And then they start telling you, well, why did this? And look at your patient who you did this to. Why can't you do that for me? And this other doctor said I can do that.
Yeah.
And, why are you telling me that you can't overly lower my hairline and you want to just add density to my existing, but you're not making a cosmetic change for me?
Yeah.
I go, because you have to fill in the middle. If we drop your hairlines and you lose that, you're in trouble. So if that's not what you want, don't have a hair transplant because you're going to look great. They get really touchy and they don't like it. But unfortunately, sometimes, I've even had to, as of late, truly push patient, like tell them, listen to me, I am not operating on you. I'm telling you this right now. Like, I think you're a nice man. I want to help you. You are not ready for this. You can't come to me and not tell me what it is that you're looking to do.
Yeah, that's a difficult conversation to have, isn't it? Because unfortunately, when you tell anybody kind of that they can't do something,
or they shouldn't do something,
that they desperately want to do. And this could be said for a lot of things, not just because hair loss is such it's such a hypersensitive issue that they're coming to you, clinging on every word you're saying, and all they want to hear from you is quite literally,
we're going to fix it.
Yes, I can do this.
Right.
Yeah, but when the doctor that they're looking up to give them the answers is saying no, I mean, that's a delicate kind of conversation to have.
But you got to be able to do it.
Yeah.
You can't be scared.
There could be repercussions from that whatever kind of format, but the sad truth is the guy might know, well, what the hell does he know?
Right.
And it goes down the road to some Joe Schmo who's like tells him exactly what he wants to hear.
That's always the moral inside of us we have. If this guy's going to end up going somewhere else anyway, isn't he better off in my hands than going somewhere else where they're not going to do it? But then you don't feel overly confident that you can make the patient happy and do what he wants effectively. That's going to give him a good long-term plan. And what I tell patients is, look, this is a lifelong relationship. You're young. I'm relatively young. In 10, 15 years, when you got a problem, you're going to have to come back to me. And I need to feel confident that not only do I set you up for a situation where I don't want to tell you after one surgery, I'm sorry, there's nothing more I can do for you.
Yeah. This is an area that is really not talked about, is about the weight that's on your shoulders as a physician when you've got a patient, a vulnerable patient, and you don't know where they're coming from. You don't know what other potential kind of issues they've got going on in their lives. Right. And it's a real responsibility for a hair restoration surgeon because there's so much dependent on it for that patient. And sadly, a lot of the industry preys on that.
Right.
And this is what makes physicians like yourself, who are incredibly ethical and honorable and have impeccable reputations, is sometimes they have to do the very hard things that it's outside your area of expertise.
Right.
You're not a counselor.
I'm not a psychologist.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But it comes with it's the nature, it comes with the territory.
Yes.
I'm not a psychologist, mate. I did sports science at university, I was a jock. And then I started to lose my hair. And it's like through that process of understanding it myself, it's then having that, I think it became a vocation for me to try and help others navigate it, because I didn't want people to have to go through what I went through. And it evolved, but it's still, and there's other great patient advocacy platforms out there that are trying to legitimately bang that same drum.
Better the field.
It's like we need 1,000 more of them that are legitimate and genuinely want to guide people in the right direction, and not kind of get threatened by anybody else's movements. It's like it should be a team effort, because sadly, it's like the numbers that we're up against of patients wanting to hear what they want to hear, the numbers of clinics that are telling them what they want to hear, it makes our job very difficult to do.
We're the minority.
We are the minority,
right.
But there's the paradox of it, because it's like we're the ones that are trying to do consistently. It's out there for perpetuity, day in, day out for years. I've been in the mainstream media. I've been in interviews. I've been on TV. But it's not about where I've been or what I've done, but the message is just so consistent. But still, we can't get to everybody.
Right.
And it just seems that it's like if you don't keep your foot on the gas,
no, you get
it's like it's
away.
soon gone.
Right.
Because it's like there's new information. There's a new advert. There's a new clinic in Turkey. There's a new discount code. There's a new summer deal, and it's like, bosh, well, go there. So it's an interesting space, and we've not got long. But what I would just like to kind of finish with is, I genuinely am very grateful for having one, the ability to provide this podcast, but two, to have guests like yourself on that have genuinely embraced it and truly understand what it's about, and given your time and ultimately your energy to help hair loss sufferers. This isn't about, you don't need to come and do this. You are booked out. You have a great life. You're a family man. You've got more than enough to do. But it's a testimony to you and other surgeons that take their time out their day to come on and help educate. So I just want to say thank you so much, Aaron, for your support over the years, and for today to come on and give us your unique expert insight, because not everybody's prepared to do it and prepared to give their time. And I know it's going to help a lot of people.
Yes. I mean, I'm honored to be able to sit with you, to finally meet you, of course, and to further the mission of what we're doing. This is the life that we've chosen, so to say, whether we're surgeons, patients advocate, this is our baby, this is our industry, and we kind of have to protect it. So it's our responsibility that nobody else is going to, obviously there's nobody else who's going to do it for us.
No.
So we're just going to have to keep doing it the way that we have. Yeah. And, little by little, hopefully we can continue getting our messages out to patients and, further this field in the right direction. That, for me, it carries even more weight, because that was one of the things my father's told me. In the beginning, he was telling me about this industry, saying, you sure you want to get into this? There's a lot of interesting individuals and, schlocks, as he used to say, that are really here. You got to be careful, Yeah, schlocks, whatever you want to call it. You can pick your word.
We can pick out
are you sure you want to do this? So for me, even back then, he always said, treat everybody like your family. Don't worry about the money. Only operate on the patient that really is going to operate on it. If people aren't a good candidate, you got to be able to turn people down. You got to put people on medicine. So these are the things that were instilled in me, back in 2005 when this was just starting. So to be able to, it's interesting that this situation has only seemed to have gotten worse over the years, right?
Crazy,
so we have even more work cut out to us. And unfortunately, I hope that we can continue doing what we're doing to try to shift the tides a little bit into the right direction. And that I'm just grateful for this opportunity to do my small part in contributing.
Yeah, well, it's not a small part, Aaron. It's a big part, because we all play a part, and it's a big team effort. And again, man, I want to say thank you so much for your time, man. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
And man, I want to give you your...
I got my merch. I need my merch.
Everybody that comes on the show, deservedly.
Let me see that.
There you go. It's the Hair Loss Lab podcast t-shirt.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome, my man. And listen, thank you so much.